Welcome back to another episode of Meredith with a Y. I am your host, Meredith Willits, and today I'm going to be talking about the things that are holding you back and why, if you could just get past them, it's an opportunity to get to your freedom. So stay with me. Hello, everyone. This is Meredith with a Y, and I am your host, Meredith Willits. Today we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Happy Tuesday, and today I had to skip on Monday because I was traveling, and I wasn't even really sure what I was going to talk about today, but I decided to go with, again, another week of talking about fear because there are so many things that we are afraid of that we don't even recognize as fear. However, I think anything that is holding us back, we need to kind of identify it with some sort of fear. And a lot of times those fears are fear of being too much or fear of, looking silly or foolish, fear of being made fun of. And I think a lot of time we find fear as being something as wild as, who do you think you are? You need to remember where you came from. And are you too big for your britches? Are you too good for us now? And staying what we call humble. And it's so in alignment with what we are taught, in religion, of not having pride and, being demure and being a good girl or not being too much. And who benefits from these types of things? Surely not us. We don't benefit from that. We don't benefit from being small and not believing in ourselves. We don't benefit from keeping ourselves in check, so to speak. I talk to a lot of clients. I'm a life coach who, when looking at them, because I use intuitive when I do life coaching, I really see that they're held back by not wanting to be bigger than their parents or their siblings, that they don't want to out excel and make their parents feel bad for their own success. And a lot of times I think that these kids, which aren't kids, they're usually adults, they don't even realize they're doing it. They don't even realize that they're keeping themselves small so that their parents don't feel bad about their own accomplishments, so that their siblings don't tease them or make fun of them, or hate them for doing big things. And so it's easier to stay small and humble and all those small things than really break free from the bondage, if you will, of being humble, of being within the limits of what the family has accomplished. Because to really jump outside of that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of willpower. And I see this time and time again that there's a part of kids, no matter how old you are, if your parents are alive, you're a kid. And so when I look at kids, even in their 50s, and their parents were, of a very respectful career and kept food on the table, they don't want to outshine their parents because they love them so much. Or the opposite can be true. They don't want to outshine them because of the fact that those parents are very jealous of their kids. And so they tease them or make fun of them, or who do you think you are? And you think you're Mr. Cool Guy with your big college degree. And because of that, because the kids want to stay, in good standing or be loved by their parents, a lot of times they succumb to staying small. And this can even lead into things as silly as having fun in life, you know, not wanting to go down the slide, not wanting to go sledding, not wanting to be silly, to stand in the rain. There's all sorts of silliness that we don't want to look ridiculous. So we act cool and sit on the sidelines. And I think that so often these things hold us back from truly living. And I don't think we are recognizing them as fear, a fear of looking silly, a fear of looking ridiculous, a fear of getting dirty, a fear of people making fun of us. And I don't think that we truly recognize that fear. I think we might bill it as, I just don't want to. But if we actually did it, how much more fun we would have in this life, how much more enjoyable our lives would be if we stood in our power and took advantage of all that life has to offer. And I'm here to tell you that so often I myself have been so guilty of this, of no, that's okay. I'll just be over here doing this. But the fact of the matter is one day you might wake up and not be able to do those things. You might not have the physical capacity. You might not have the finances. You might not be at a park because now your kids are grown. Perfect example, we went on a vacation this past Christmas. And prior to the vacation, I told myself I was going to do all the things. I was going to go down the water slides. I was going to do the rock climbing wall. I was going to do all the things. I had myself all geared up to doing all the fun stuff. And then when I got there, I became complacent for some reason. I'm just going to lay on the lounge chairs. I'm going to read a book. I'm just going to relax. And I watched my family go in the water at the beach, and I'm just going to relax. I don't want to mess up my hair. I'm just chilling. And now that I'm home, I watch all the videos of all the things that I could have done. And I'm like, ugh, I really wish I would have done those because now I'm not there and now I can't do them. And I don't know if it was necessarily fear, but it was effort. It was, I want someone to do them with me, and, they didn't want to at the time or whatever. But I was so gung ho. And now I'm so mad at myself that I didn't do those things because now I'm not there and I can't. I think sometimes, women, we have to get ready. We have to put makeup on. And then so we delay. We don't do it. We don't do the things a lot of times. We hold ourselves back. I sometimes think of men that, go and make videos or, do content, create content. And I'm like, man, all they have to do is like get up and brush their teeth and they're ready for the day. And I have to go do all these things and get myself together to make a video. And because I don't want someone to make fun of me or be like, oh my God, you look like crap. You look old. You look awful. God, you're aging bad. No one says these things to men. And so it's just like the fear of being criticized makes you not do things. But at the end of the day, do these people even know you? Does it matter? At least you did it. What if people judge you? What if people make fun of you? What if people call you evil? What if people hate you? What if your content makes them say horrible, mean things and think that you're stupid? So, at least you lived truthfully. At least you lived wholly. At least you lived to its entirety, life to its entirety. I always think about the greats, at least the greats, in my opinion, the people that lived to the utmost capacity of living. And it's always silly things like Elton John, Lady Gaga, the people, the artists, right, that lived to the maximum, who did the maximum fashion and the maximum hair and makeup and the maximum creativity. They pushed the limits of all to fully take advantage of all the pieces of life, to be fully judged by everyone. And inside of that extreme capacity of taking up all the space, what's so amazing is so many people love them. So many people are inspired by the greats who push it, who fall in love with the fearlessness, or is it courage? To me, that is living, to take up all the space, no matter what, in spite of the judgment, in spite of the scariness, in spite of the hatred or horrible things that could be said about and are said about them. They did it anyways. I mean, but isn't that what courage is having all the fears and doing it in spite of the fear, doing it anyways, doing it because of. Isn't that what life is worth for living? Doing it all in spite of, not playing it safe. I recently started to realize, because I'm in my 50s now, the way that this age thing kind of works out. And I'm watching all the different age groups from kind of the center point. I see my teenage kids, middle school, high school. I've got my 20-year-olds, and then myself, and then I see the people that are older than me. And it feels like before the age of 20, you just want to survive. You just want to blend. You don't want to stand out too much for the majority. I've said it here before. When we drop off or pick up the kids at school, it looks like they're all cookie cuttered. Sweatpants, leggings, sweatshirt, check, 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 same type of shoes, maybe down to the color and brand, same hair. We have a few that are going to go left of center, but for the majority, I would say 90+% of the kids look, dress, everything exactly alike. It is cookie cutter through and through. Middle school and high school. And then, you spend your 20s figuring out, do I want to be like my parents? Do I want to be like my friends? And you try on all the different personalities of your friends. You try out all the different personalities of people that you see out on the street, in sororities, at work, fraternities, whatever it is. And you figure out, like, am I like them? And then, in your 30s, you're starting to figure out, like, who you are. What is my style? What is my situation here? Am I clean girl aesthetic? Am I funky? Who am I? And around this time, high school and that you care about everything. You care about what people say about you. You try to conform, and that's why you try to live under the radar. And then in your 20s, you're figuring it out, and you want to find yourself, and you're figuring out, do I like this friend? And you pull away, and you're really starting to find your groove in your friendships. And your 30s, you're getting married or whatever, and you're creating, and you're basically you're friends with your kids' parents' friends, and then you get to be in your 40s and 50s, and you've cared so much in your teens and your 20s and your 30s. You've cared so much about the way everyone thinks about you, and the way your parents think about you, and the way society thinks about you. And you've been on a treadmill of life, caring so much, that you finally get to your late 40s and then your 50s, and you just literally have no more cares to give. You're like, I'm so exhausted with caring. I have cared what my parents have thought about me For decades, I've cared what my family has thought. I've cared what society has thought. I've cared what men have thought, of women who have thought. I've cared about everything so much that I can't care anymore. I'm exhausted of caring what the world thinks about me. I'm going to start to figure out what I think about me. What do I think about these things? I have a friend, she's in her 40s, and she said to me the other day, she goes, I didn't even know my own opinion about stuff. I had just adhered to my husband's opinions and my father's opinions and my brother's opinions and my friends' opinions. And I hadn't even taken the time to ask myself, what's my opinion? And I think that this is what's happening in our 40s and our 50s is that we start going, wait, what do I even think about this stuff? What's my opinion about how I look? It's a weird thing. I've always been a bit of a fashion rebel, if you will. I've always just kind of, beat to my own drum when it comes to that. I don't usually ask anyone what they think about my clothing or my hair. I have a pretty strong sense of who I am as a person, and I always have. Whether it came to parenting, and I said this last week, I really don't like to get other people's opinions because it's too much noise. I already know what I want, and it's a lot of extra noise for me. And there's other people that need a lot of feedback, and I get that. Um, and I think that this has to, maybe comes from the way people are raised. If they got a lot of noise from their family when it came to getting dressed or their clothes or, what they do or where they're headed, like I'm always so mesmerized by my husband. Will say, oh, I was talking to this person about that. I'm always like, why? Why would you ask their opinion? But that's him. Um, I always find it fascinating, which I guess it's good, it's made him successful. But I'm always like, why would you want anyone else's opinion? And how do you not know what you think about this as being enough? But everyone, clearly is different. But I think that as we get older and you see people, especially probably women, as they age, because you always say, like, how how are older women so opinionated, or they just are a little bit more persnickety, if you will. And I honestly think it's because we've cared ourselves to death. We've taken on our shoulders so many opinions and judgments and scrutinizing and the gaze of men on us as to what's attractive or not attractive, and it's literally as the seasons go, and so we hold ourselves back from what we truly want, and that fear holds us back from our freedoms of truly existing in this world as we wish to exist. And then you say, it's so weird. I see all these women in their 60s and 70s with pink and purple hair. And it's like, yeah, because the beginning part of their life, they did what everyone else told them to do, gave way too many shits about what people thought, about what their husband thought, about what their parents or kids thought. And now they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they don't care anymore. They realize they've wasted their entire lives giving a shit about what the world thinks about them. And it's held them back in so many ways from living their authentic lives and being themselves. Maybe they want to be heavy set. Maybe they want to be skinny. Maybe they want big boobs or pink hair or orange lipstick. Maybe they don't want to be a CEO. Maybe they want to own a farm. Maybe they just want to live their lives without the scrutiny of everyone's opinions around them, telling them they're too much or not enough or too fat or too thin or too whatever. When honestly, that's all a lie. and none of it means anything. It's all just an opinion of some person who doesn't live your life or know anything about you. Think how many times you would have danced, how many times you would have done something silly or fun or free. I see women choosing black wedding dresses for the effect and because they love them, or a pink wedding dress on these wedding dress shows, and watching the moms just completely crash out that their daughter wants to wear a pink or black wedding dress, and to the point of saying, "Well, I won't pay for it." Think about that. Think of the insanity of you won't pay for your kid's wedding or wedding dress if they don't do it your way, and then ask yourself why people are so screwed up. He who holds the purse strings rules the world. And how sadistic as a parent you have to be to say, your wedding has to be my way or I won't pay for it. You have to go to school and graduate with a degree that I approve of or I won't pay for it. You have to get your hair cut my way or I won't pay for it. You can't get your ears pierced or you won't live here. You can't get a tattoo or you're out of the house. The controlling of parents as their children are the extension of their egos. And we wonder why people are dealing with so much anxiety and depression these days. Think of the insanity that you are filtering onto your children. It's really sadistic. What and in the same breath, these same people will say stuff like, "My only dream is for my children to be happy." You're a liar. Your only dream is for your children to grow up and be the way you need them to be for you to find them acceptable. I just want my kids to be happy. Lies. No, you don't. You want your children to be like you, but better, maybe, not 100%. So if you're doing this shit to your kids, stop. And if you're letting your parents do this to you, tell them or don't listen. It's hard if your parents are paying for things still to go against their wishes because you know they're going to cut you off. But maybe if you point it out to them and say, you know, you're manipulating and controlling, right? Maybe that'll snap them out of it. I don't think parents quite realize how much they see their children as an extension of themselves to the demise of the child, to the demise of the child. And it's tough. It's very difficult. You know, it's tough because the society, no matter how good you raise them, society will always lead back to the parenting, regardless of how good of a parent you are. And I have 4 children that were all raised by me as the primary caregiver, and they're all 4 very, very, very different. A lot of it has to do with firstborn, lastborn, middle, female, male, location, you know, how much money you have, education, school system. There's a lot that go genetics. There's a lot that goes into creating a full-fledged human. Their friends, the community that they grow up in, what is normal, what is acceptable in one community is not normal and acceptable in another community. If you raised a child in, you know, the South and in a racist community or quietly racist, and you move that child to Berkeley And then you had more kids who were raised in only Berkeley, California. Those kids are going to be very different regardless of who you are as a parent, because the society that is around them, the language, the culture is going to be very different. And so when you raise your kids, you can do your very best, but you're still going to have the children that you're going to have, and genetics plays a role. But the amount of fear that parents a lot of times raise their kids in creates a very, a bubble around the child, that sometimes that fear that that parent raises them under holds them back. And I get parents, I have a lot of friends that they will let their kids, boys, have hair down to their back and earrings and, the whole thing. And I am just like, I am so impressed with you. You just let your kid do whatever the hell they want. And I think that's amazing. And the kid figures it out. They're going to keep going in that direction. They're going to switch direction. They're going to be this way. They're going to be that way, whatever. I'm impressed by it. I'm impressed by parents that let their kids wear whatever they want to wear. It doesn't matter if they're in kindergarten or in 8th grade or whatever. I am the opposite. My 16-year-old, she's got that clean girl aesthetic. And I'm always like, why don't you do this? Why don't you wear something crazier? Why don't you wear something more fun? Why don't you do something more colorful? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, Mom, I like my gray sweatpants. I like this sweatshirt. I like beige shoes and white gym. Like, she wants to just be under the radar. And I'm like, why don't you do something crazy? It's not who she is. I'm always pushing her to be, more eccentric. She's like, I'm good, thanks. But then they also do the same to me. It's like, why can't you be a normal mom? Because I'm not. I'm not like you. And I don't want to be. I think that's what's so a difficult statement to make so often. But I think it needs to be made, is I don't want to be like you. I don't. I want to have a nose ring. I want to be different than you. I want to have tattoos. I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be. I don't want anything to do with being like anyone else. And sometimes you end up being like a whole different group of people when you don't want to be like that group of people, because you fall in line somewhere. But even in my healing practice, I'm a psychic medium channel. I talk to dead people. I talk to aliens. I talk to all the things. And if you saw me walking down the street, you'd be like, suburban mom, black leggings, gym shoes. Because I don't look the part. I'm not wearing, elephant pants and crystals. I don't look the part. But I don't need to. I'm perfectly happy just doing the things. I don't, sometimes it's odd. It's odd, I will say, admittedly, when I do step into the flow of that energy and do wear those things, because I do own that, sort of some of the genre of what I just spoke about. It does actually feel very comfortable for me. Like when I'm in my office, I do feel very much at home. And, sometimes I'm leather wearing, sometimes I'm lace wearing, sometimes I'm yoga girl, sometimes I'm, power walking person, sometimes I'm wearing a sport coat. I think that we just need to be free to do all the things, free to allow our children to look different and act different and be different than us, to understand that if the world scrutinizes them, they won't die. Be all the things. Yes. Be all the things. Because one day you're not going to be here to be all the things. And you'll look back and you're going to say, why didn't I do that one thing? I'm going skiing with my friend in a week or so, and I've ordered 3 snowsuits because I didn't know which one I wanted. And the one showed up today, and it's a little wilder than the other one's all white. And of course, my 16-year-old was like, get the all white one, right? Clean girl aesthetic. do the all white. That's her. And then, of course, I had to order another one to return these, right? To return. And it's houndstooth, black and white, so much busier. And my husband's like, "Oh, I'm not sure how that's gonna look, but maybe it'll look good with the snow." And then I have like bright green goggles, and it's just like, have the most fun. Do all of it, especially because I don't drink, especially because I don't have that outlet of, you know, booze and anything else. A lot of times my excitement is being here on a microphone. It's working with clients. It's dressing up and going to an event and pushing the limits of fashion, of being fun and wild and makeup or whatever. And that might sound stupid to people, but for me that's fun. For me that's living. And that's why when I look back at my vacation in December, I'm kind of bummed out with myself. Why didn't you do the rock climbing wall? Why didn't you do the fun thing and go sledding? We went on a vacation a couple years ago to Mexico and we did the four-wheeling and zip lining, and I was so proud of myself, and my kids loved it because we did all the things with them. And I think that we need to get back to doing all the things and being all the things, because that is what it's about. Siloing yourself, put on the blinders, stop thinking people are going to think that this is too much or too crazy, or that I'm too big for my britches. Be too big for your britches. Be too big for the world, because you never know the amount of messages that I get from people weekly that said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for your podcast. Thank you so much for that post you put up on social media. I've been feeling that same way and I thought I was alone." We are meant to come to this planet and fully embrace the capacity of living, the full capacity of existence, pushing all the limits. My daughter and her boyfriend were talking the other day, and they were close proximity to me. And he was talking about how we were at dinner, and was talking about he plays football and he wrestles, and he was saying about how he was going to um, do some sort of diet, and he's a sophomore in high school, and he doesn't have to cut weight for wrestling because of the weight class that he's in. I guess he has room, and he was talking about how he wanted to, I don't know, the kids have some word, but like cut down or whatever, basically. And my daughter looked at him and was like, "Why would you do that?" And this kid who's 16 years old looked at her and he said, "Because I want to see what I'm capable of." And in that moment, I fell in love with him. I was like, "Whoa, yes." I was like, that's what it's about. Yes. 12 years ago, I juiced for 40 days and 40 nights. I did not chew so much as an olive, a piece of gum, nothing. I wanted to see what I was capable of. Over the past year, I've lost 50 pounds. I wanted to see what I was capable of. I quit drinking. I wanted to see what I was capable of. And this 16-year-old guy said, "I want to cut down to see what I'm capable of." And so I ask you, what are you capable of when you plug your ears, when you put your blinders on, and when you stop listening to the world telling you that you're too much, that you're not enough, that you need to be not full of pride, and you decide that nothing is going to hold you back, that you are ready to take on the world. You are ready to see what you are finally capable of without the voice in your head of your mother or your father or your spouse or your kids or your siblings or the world around you. That you're ready to check in to who you are and what you want this world to be, maybe for the first time. Message me if you want and let me know what you're going to try and be capable of this next year. It's 2025. Everything's up in the air. And I mean, everything's up in the air. So let's see what you're capable of. I will see you here next week. I hope that this shines some light on different things in your world that you may be held back from and you didn't even realize. But have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredithwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredith with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredith with a Y. Thanks again for listening.